Well, good morning. It's Ash Wednesday, and welcome to the first of our Lent reflections over the Lent period. That's 40 days. We're going to try and do a very brief reflection on each day of the period of Lent. I hope you saw a little introduction yesterday with Fran making pancakes. They were very tasty, and I certainly enjoyed them. Probably ate too many. But Fran is leading us in our first reflection today, so I'll hand over to her now. Okay.
Hello. The picture you can see is part of a fresco by Masaccio, The Expulsion of Adam and Eve. And so we're going to start our journey through Lent with Adam and Eve. So Richard, can you read a couple of verses from Genesis chapter 3, please?
Okay. We're looking at verse 6 and 7 and 24. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. And verse 24. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a sword flaming and turning to guard the way to the tree of life.
I think it's, for some of us, the story of Adam and Eve is quite a familiar story. It's part of it comes into art and all sorts of things. Well, we often think that the world is in such a mess that, as one song said, we've got to get back to the garden. We look back to Adam and Eve and we blame them for everything that goes wrong. I've heard many preachers squarely blame Eve for the introduction of sickness, disease, bacteria, viruses, and flies. After all, evidently she plucked the fruit and gave it to Adam, but if you noticed, Adam was with her. He didn't do anything to stop her or protect her. Our whole world, it is argued, should be a perfect paradise, like the garden, with nothing out of place, and all made for the benefit of man. The problem with this idea is that the biblical narrative clearly says that God created the whole world and saw that it was good. And then he planted a garden in the middle of the world, an enclave of delight, separate and yet within the rest of creation which God had created good. So when Adam placed the blame for his actions onto the woman and the serpent, and indirectly blaming God for creating woman in the first place, his punishment was that he and the woman were expelled from the luxury of the garden. He would have to work, to tend the ground, to cultivate it. In the first creation narrative, this was humanity's task, to look after the world, to care for creation. But as any of us who do gardening know, thorns and thistles, along with other weeds, have a persistent habit of growing where you don't want them to. They choke our precious seedlings. They grow and they strip the ground of nutrients. Weeding is a constant task that must be undertaken. We might think that being expelled from the garden is terrible. But when we get to Genesis 4, we see that God hasn't been left behind in the garden. God is still present, challenging Adam and Eve's son Cain as he resorts to violence. Cain's problem was that he didn't think he was good enough, that he wasn't top dog. Just like his father, Cain wanted to dominate others, just as Adam had tried to dominate the woman and blame her for everything that had gone wrong. So our journey begins, thrust out into the world, a good world, created by God and fit for purpose. Yes, it is a world that has pain and death, but it's also a world that has life and joy. It's a world where humanity has not been abandoned by God, but God is with us, accompanying us through our journeys, through life and death, and into life eternal. So today, remember, God is with us, and be blessed.
Thank you. Bye. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a
See you
good day.
tomorrow.